All right, Tuesday edition of PFTPM. As we do every Tuesday during the season, we hand out awards. MDS joins Charean Williams and me to do that now. And let's get right to it like we always do. Offensive Player of the Week for Week 16. MDS, who do you have?
I have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who really put on one of the performances of the year in relief of Tua Tagovailoa. That throw, while he was being face masked, thank you for putting that up at the moment I say it, was just such a phenomenal play by Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's got such toughness and grit and all these things you like about a guy. The only thing I don't like is that he's not starting Week 17. I think he's the better quarterback on the roster. In my humble opinion, he ought to be the starter when they're fighting for a playoff berth. We shall see how it plays out, but he's definitely my player of the week of Week 16. We'll see if we see him on the field Week 17.
MDS, I took the other obvious choice, which is Alvin Kamara. We all know what he did, and he had 6 touchdowns. And frankly, it should have been 7 touchdowns because Taysom Hill shouldn't have gotten the one before Alvin Kamara got his last one. So he should have set the NFL record alone with 7 touchdowns, but he didn't get that opportunity. 22 carries, 155 yards, just outstanding. And I think maybe, Mike, that he should make those red and green Christmas shoes the shoes he wears every single week, even if he has to pay a fine.
Yeah, whatever the fine is, just pay it. Just build it into your budget for the year, because there was something about those shoes. The shoes that they didn't make him take off, even though they made Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry take off non-conforming cleats during the 2019 season. I still can't get a straight answer from anyone on why that was the case for them and not the case for Alvin Kamara. The Grinch eventually will force him to make a contribution to the NFL's equivalent of the Human Fund, but they didn't make him take off the shoes, and that was something to see. 6 touchdowns, 4th time ever in NFL history that a player has scored 6 times in a game. I thought we were going to see history of a different kind on Saturday at halftime when Tom Brady had 348 passing yards. I assumed that between Brady, the fact that he was back in Michigan for the last time, most likely in his career, and that he was playing for Coach No Risk It, No Biscuit, I thought for sure he would stay in the game and he would try to get 207 passing yards in the second half against a grossly overmatched Lions defense in order to break a record that goes back to 1951, the single-game passing yardage record more than 20 years before the NFL decided to embrace passing the football. Norm Van Brocklin had 554. I thought that was the day the record was going to fall. But even without playing in the second half, 348 and 4 touchdowns, Brady's my Offensive Player of the Week for Week 16. He won't be the NFC Offensive Player of the Week because of Kamara, but yeah, that would have been an interesting choice. If he had set the single-game record, and Kamara has 6 touchdowns in the same weekend, which guy is the NFC Offensive Player of the Week? But the league office doesn't have to figure that one out. All right, Defensive Player of the Week, MDS, who do you have?
Well, I went with Steelers linebacker Avery Williamson, who contributed 14 tackles. That was tied for the most that any player had across the NFL this week. And I just thought that he really epitomized exactly what the Steelers were hoping for when they made that midseason trade to acquire him after they lost Devin Bush to a season-ending knee injury. They needed a linebacker who was going to be very active, showing up a lot, and I think Avery Williamson, at the right time, is becoming that player for them. He was very excited. It was the first time he ever won a division in his career, and he talked about how different that was than what it was like playing on the Jets for the first half of the season when they didn't win a game. So Avery Williamson, he's excited. He's peaking at the right time, and I think he's one of the players the Steelers are really going to need to play well in the playoffs.
MDS, the Cowboys are going to need Randy Gregory to play like he did on Sunday if they're going to have a chance to win this weekend against the Giants and have a chance to win the NFC East. And you know, Randy Gregory has been very open about his social anxiety disorder. He's been suspended 4 times for using marijuana. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. Love the kid, huge heart, works hard. This time last year, he was about to get a suspension, and what he did, he went and worked at the Amazon warehouse, making $15.50 an hour just to have something to do and bring home some money to his family. And here he is now back playing in the NFL, had 3 forced fumbles, a sack and a half. And this is a guy who had only had 7 sacks in his career before this weekend. And I think he's really starting to play like the Cowboys thought he was going to play when they made him a second-round pick.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and it's great to see that story. And I remember earlier this year when Alden Smith was having great performances, he couldn't get the attention of the folks at Park Avenue who hand out the weekly awards or the monthly award. I still think Alden Smith should have been the Defensive Player of the Month for the NFC in September. We'll see if Randy Gregory gets some love. I think he should be considered for Defensive Player of the Week for the NFC, although he'll have some competition in the form of Roquan Smith, the Bears linebacker, who was snubbed for the Pro Bowl, had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery in that win over the Jaguars. And the Bears defense is so critical to this turnaround. You know, we take their defense for granted, but if they can play at a high level while the offense just does enough, this is a team that is going to be very difficult to beat if they make it into the postseason field. And this is one of those teams where if you're the Saints, I don't know that you're all that thrilled of the Bears coming to town. If you're the Seahawks with no fans there, I don't think you want the Bears as your opening opponent in the postseason run. So the Bears could make things very interesting. So we give some credit to Roquan Smith and the Bears for what they're doing defensively and getting that 41-17 win over Jacksonville. Time for the Rookie of the Week. MDS, who do you have?
I have T. Higgins, the first player chosen in the second round, and I don't know if we've talked enough about what a good year he's having for the Bengals. He had 99 yards and a touchdown in the win over the Texans. He only needs to catch one more pass to break Chris Collinsworth's Bengals franchise rookie record for catches in a season. He's over 900 yards, could hit 1,000 yards on Sunday. And he's doing it on a team that, of course, has had to play 3 different quarterbacks. I don't think we've had much to be excited about with the Bengals in recent years. But if Joe Burrow is healthy, he and T. Higgins, I think, could be a really exciting combination for many years to come. He looked really good against the Texans, helping out a team that doesn't have a very good quarterback situation right now. I like the promise that he has to do big things in Cincinnati.
MDS, Packers fans moaned and groaned when the team used a second-round draft pick on A.J. Dillon, and frankly, he had done next to nothing, 115 yards and no touchdowns before this past weekend, but he really went off. First time this season, 21 carries, 124 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And maybe the Packers are seeing something where they don't re-sign Aaron Jones. Maybe he leaves in free agency, and A.J. Dillon is their running back. But they're going to find out over the next few games whether he can do the job, and he'll get a chance to prove that. But, Mike, he needs to work on the Lambeau leap a little bit.
Well, it's hard to leap anywhere with those legs. You got to carry those legs up over the wall. And at least Aaron Rodgers set a low bar for the Lambeau leap this year. On A.J. Dillon, though, you know, the idea that you just say to Aaron Jones, thanks for everything, we're going to let you become a free agent. Look, for every Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook who deliver, and also Derrick Henry, on that big second contract, there's 1 or 2 other guys that you scratch your head, like Ezekiel Elliott, like Christian McCaffrey, who promptly got injured. And I know that it's not his fault that he hasn't been able to perform this year, but as a running back, if you get injured, that's one of the key things that keeps you from being on the field and one of the things that your team needs. So interesting point that you make. Do the Packers let Aaron Jones go? That'll be an interesting offseason dilemma for them. For me, Rookie of the Week, I am going with Chase Young, although he's going to be the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he's a bright spot on that team. And I suggested at one point, joking around, that if you have quarterback issues, just run the single wing and snap the ball to him. I wouldn't want to try to tackle this guy. We've seen what he can do with the ball in his hands, holding it like Walter Payton. But he is a force. He keeps the Washington football team in every game. And if they're going to win on Sunday night on NBC against the Eagles to get into the postseason, they're going to need another big game from Chase Young. All right, let's do Coach of the Week. MDS, who do you have?
I have a coach we have not yet given our Coach of the Week honor here heading into the 17th and final week of the season, and that is Jets coach Adam Gase, who's now won 2 games in a row, and both of them against teams fighting for playoff berths. So you have to say that's pretty legit. His players are still playing hard for him. Adam Gase has taken a ton of criticism this year. a lot of it has been justifiable criticism, but you cannot say that he doesn't still have his players playing hard. We've seen other teams that look like they're phoning it in at this point in the year when they're out of playoff contention. The Jets are not one of those teams, and I think you do have to give Adam Gase some credit for that.
MDS, I also picked a coach we haven't honored this year, and that's Mike McCarthy. And, early in the year, he got questioned a lot for some of his fourth down decisions and fake punts and fake field goals and everything else he did. Well, this time he settled for 2 red zone field goals, and I'm like, what are you doing settling for the 2 red zone field goals when you went for it all year and said you couldn't be scared? But you know what? When it works, nobody questions you afterwards, and nobody's questioning Mike McCarthy. It's worked. Since they went 3-9, they're undefeated, and they have a chance to win the NFC East, Mike, as unbelievable as that is.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable, and it's unbelievable when you consider how bad the Dolphins were when Brian Flores became the head coach, and all of the speculation that they were deliberately tanking in September of 2019. They have really turned it around since then. They're on the brink of the postseason. It's not going to be easy to get in, but Flores is my coach of the week for the way that he just handles with a steady hand the quarterback situation, knowing when to yank Tua Tagovailoa, knowing when to put Ryan Fitzpatrick on the field, knowing how to keep Fitzpatrick from griping about not being the starter going into, for example, Week 17 against the Bills back in Buffalo, one of the various places where Fitzpatrick once played, not having Tagovailoa get his nose out of joint when he gets yanked from a game for Fitzpatrick, knowing exactly how long to use Fitzpatrick so Fitzmagic doesn't flip to Fitztragic. It's just amazing how he's gotten this all to work, and we haven't heard a peep from anyone in the locker room arguing that what is Brian Flores doing, what's going on here. They're all on board. They have all bought in. It's amazing to see how it has worked out for Miami, and it will be sad to see them not make the playoffs if that's what happens. But between the Texans, not the Texans, they're already out, the Titans, the Colts, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Dolphins, one of those teams with 10 wins or possibly 11 is not going to be in the postseason field. All right, we say goodbye to MDS. We say goodbye to you just for a second. We'll be back with an unveiling of the new PFT Power Rankings and a new team at number 1. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.